Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Jeremiah 25. Now, these last few sessions has been chapter 25, 25th chapter, because I wanted to again take the time as it's presenting ourselves with really getting into the importance and the power of the prophetic or prophecy. Now, of course, I wanted to go through I say that there is a lot of fraud. There's a lot of clown shows going on today. So there are a lot of people, in my opinion, these frauds who claim to speak for God cheapen him because you claim you're speaking to God when you know you're not. In other words, the clowns know. When people say I'm an apostle, they know they're not. When you look at these people that's claiming to have the power of God flow through them, when you see that, they have these healing services where they line people up at the front of the auditorium. They lay hands on them. They lie to them and say, well, the power of God came out, and the people fall out. Let me show you the trickery of that, guys. Because what they don't tell you is every one of the people that come up for those minutes to be healed that have terminal illnesses die. Every one of them. Trust me, if they could produce one tangible healing, they would kidnap that guy, encage them so that they can go, see, we had a miracle. And I say that jokingly. Now, there's a video, and I'm not going to give the name because I'm not focusing on individuals. But there's an individual about a lady who was in a car accident. She was paralyzed for a number of years. And there's a video out there where they actually show where, and I think you can, the moment she got healing, you can see the fake healer who was, laying hands on people. And I think he had already laid hands on it and moved on because, again, to show you, they really don't believe it. But she got up and she actually began to walk. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. She began to walk. So now people will say, well, see, right there. And of course, he rushed back, cameras rushed back, and they caught the moment. It was like they were surprised. Oh my God, this worked. Get out. So what they do, they put the tension on it. Now you may say, well, what are my thoughts on that? Well, my thoughts on that was, let's for example, one, is it possible God could have used that moment to heal her? Sure. I said before in another lesson, remember God used Balaam to give his word to a wicked king. Excuse me, Balaam himself was wicked. So the fact that could God use that moment, this fake healer, and then the minute that she actually got healed? Sure. And another thing is that, however, when you go back and you look at some of the videos, I'm always question is, did she really get healed? And again, I have no judgment. But my point is, so at the very least, you can say, well, of course she could have. But he cannot produce any other. So my point is, they cheapen God when they do this because people, what kind of faith do you have in some of these faith healers when you know no one is getting healed? For that matter, then what kind of faith do you have in God? When you've been lied to and you've been told you can just ask for anything you want and God's going to give you. If you just have enough faith, you can get whatever you want. Well, what is the actual faith that people have? Because they know it's a fraud. The people with tangible healing never get healed. Now, just like now, I can tell you I am in relatively good health, right? If I get a cold right now and I'm going to use my faith to get rid of my cold. Cold, go! Like when the minister Blue told Kenneth, and I think I'll say since when Kenneth Copeland cursed COVID-19. He said, I blow on you. I speak as the prophet of God, and I blow on you. Well, COVID-19 killed another several hundred Americans. In other words, COVID-19 didn't go anywhere, even though he blew on it. If I tell you I'm at the cold, and it takes 3 days for my body to do what God created it to do, did my faith actually work, or did God's creation work? See, we cheapen. We cheapen. So when you prophesy stuff, but so the other thing is that the prophecies, I kind of left off with, let me go back to my picture. Let me go back to my illustration here so that we can look at this. This is a prophetic timeline. And what is interesting, and one of the things I wanted to do with this is to show that in each of its generations, you could locate yourself prophetically. As we are now able to look back, now this is an artist's rendition of the dream that God gave King Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel the prophet interpreted. This is in Daniel chapter 2. Here's another picture. Let's bring that up, okay? So Daniel chapter 2, that's where you can find this story. So let me bring up my the prophecy itself. But when you look at this here, if you was living in each of the kingdoms, you can look back and then you can look forward. For example, if you're living in the kingdom of Babylon, you can look back to when 80 years prior to when the northern kingdom of Israel fell to the Assyrians that God had prophesied about. So in other words, you can say, okay, well, we know this is coming. God has already fulfilled this prophecy. So now, as we're in the kingdom of Babylon, God brought it. And by the way, there's a myriad of prophecies on Babylon. We'll get back to them. We'll get back to them. In other words, if you were living in that period of time, you also know what is the end for the kingdom of Babylon. And then when you get to the kingdoms of the Medes and the Persians, which we will get to in a minute. And by the way, so Daniel is going to be reading the prophecies of Jeremiah. Daniel is going to be reading the prophecies of Jeremiah these 70 weeks. And as a result of that, he's going to go into prayer, and he's going to be seeking God, and God's going to send the angel Gabriel. And then Gabriel gives Daniel the prophecy. Okay? The 70-week prophecy that takes us to the end of the age. And this is what you see with this. So let's take a look at this here. That's the timeline that I was telling you. If you go back and you chart the different prophecies, the timeline. Oh, I don't know how this started here. I want to show you something about the timeline here. Come on. I lost. I'm using the Holman Christian Standard Translation, so that's why I am going to switch over to my favorite translation. Okay. So, let me do this. I'm going to read in just a moment here. All right, so let's start reading. Oh, I said 20, 25. Oh, no, I meant this should be 26, right? Oh, yes, 25. Okay. Okay. Oh, all right. Um, Verse 1 says, "This is the word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, which was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon." Right? So this right here, you see the prophecy. He says, "The prophet Jeremiah spoke concerning all of the people of Judah and all of the residents of Jerusalem as follows. From the 13th year of Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah, until this very day, 23 years, the word of the Lord has come to me, and I've spoken to you time and time again, but you have not obeyed." This is amazing. By the way, you can go back over 200 years where this prophecy has come about the judgment coming. Verse 4, "The Lord sent all of his servants, the prophets, to you time and time again, but you have not obeyed or even paid attention. He announced, 'Turn each of you from your evil ways, from your evil life, and from your evil deeds. Live in the land the Lord gave to you and to your ancestors long ago forever. Do not follow other gods and serve them and to worship them. And do not provoke me to anger by the works of your hands. Then I will do you no harm. But you would not obey me. This is the Lord's declaration, in order that you might provoke me to anger by the works of your hands to bring disaster upon yourself." Now, one thing is clear. Why is this happening? Because people always ask when evil happens, why is this happening to me? Why? God says, okay, check yourself. Verse 8, "Therefore, this is what the Lord says, the Lord of hosts says, because you have not obeyed my words, I'm going to send for all of the families of the north. This is the Lord's declaration. And send for my servant Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. And I will bring them against this land, against its residents, and against all the surrounding nations. And I will completely destroy them and make them a desolation, a derision, and a ruin forever." Now notice a couple of things about this here. He said, "My servant Nebuchadnezzar." Now it's kind of interesting that God would call him that, even though he's a wicked man. Nebuchadnezzar, as he is doing the evil, is an evil man, but he later does come to the Lord in a very dramatic way that we'll say for Daniel. Okay. But notice he also says that not only does he use Nebuchadnezzar to destroy Jerusalem, Judah, the southern kingdom, but all the nations around them as well. And this is why you see these prophecies, as tedious as they could be. You go back and you read in Isaiah and all these other ones, you see that God always starts with Jerusalem and then also the nations around them. He's going to destroy them as well. Thus, Nebuchadnezzar is one of the first kingdoms, world kingdoms. Then he says, "I will eliminate the sound of joy and gladness from them, the voice of the groom and bridegroom, the sound of the millstone and the light of the lamp. This whole land will become a desolate ruin, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. Now I'm going to stop here because I'm going to obviously get into it in the next study. A couple of things I want you to see is notice what God is saying right now, that I'm going to eliminate the sound of joy and gladness. Whenever destruction comes in war, think about this. Is there the sound of joy and gladness in Gaza right now? Okay, think about that. Are weddings going on? Good times? And really, even in Israel, there might be some, but boy, when they hear a plane fly over, when the alarm sound, right? But for Gaza, for sure, right? So think about this. This is what he's saying here. When the time of this destruction happens, right? You don't hear all of these things. He said, "I'm taking it away." But notice he says this land will be ruined for 70 years. Now, I just want to read one other thing before we because this is amazing here. So this is Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9. Then he says, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, a Mede by birth, who was the ruler over the kingdom of the Chaldeans, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood from the books, according to the word of the Lord to Jeremiah the prophet, that the number of the years for the desolation of Jerusalem would be 70. Now this is, again, amazing right here. It is amazing because, again, remember, we can track true prophecy. In other words, if it wasn't true, would we really pay attention to it? I mean, like, if a person is not really established as a true prophet, do you really pay attention to them? Now, some people foolish enough will. Like, when sometimes you see these guys saying, "The Lord told me that Jesus is coming back in 3 months," and then you have the foolish people quit their jobs, empty their bank accounts. Why they empty their bank accounts, I don't know. And then usually give them to the preacher. Why that? I don't know. And then some of them live communally, waiting for the Lord to come. Foolishness. But they're foolish people anyway, though. But here, all of the prophecies up until this point that Daniel, being a prophet himself, obviously, and by the way, so the difference between, remember that artist rendition, the image, it has been some years now, nearly 70 years, over 60 years, when Daniel interpreted that dream, and now he's reading and saying, Jeremiah, my predecessor, said 70 years, and basically now he is saying 70 years is almost up. Now, watch this. So the 70 years is almost up, Mede. So let's kind of, let me do this. I'm going to hurry up. I got to hurry up and read. So now Gabriel is sent to Daniel because he's saying, hey, God, what about these 70 years? Here's what Gabriel says. 70 weeks are decreed about your people, the holy city, to bring a rebellion to the end, to put a stop to sin, to wipe away iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. No one understands this. And so I want you to say, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. I want you to see something right here. This is, so by Daniel seeking the other, information about the 70 years, God gives him a prophetic time to the end of, to the end of age. So when we kind of go back, and I'll come back to this in the next study, because I think this, again, is extremely important here. But notice he says, from the issuing of the decree, okay? So let me do this real fast. And I'm going to go to the book of Ezra. The book of Ezra. Where are you at, Ezra? The book of Ezra. Now watch this. The Medes and Persians said, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah was fulfilled. The Lord put it in the mind of King Cyrus to issue a proclamation throughout his entire kingdom and to put it in writing That's a great thing. See, he put it in writing. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says, "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and has appointed me to build him a house in Jerusalem and in Judea." Whoever's among these people, may his God be with him, and may he go to Jerusalem and Judea and build a house for the Lord. Now stop, because I'm out of time for this, but I want you to notice this right here started a prophetic timeline that brings us to the end of time. In other words, it brings us to the fulfillment of this. All right, so it brings us from the kingdom of the Medes and Persians to the kingdom of Rome, the legs of iron. Okay, and I'll get into this next time because I'm out of time. But again, why prophecy is so important, why prophecy is sure, but the effect of that is how it strengthens my faith. I'm not just following a blind faith. More on this in the next study. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome, and I'll see you in the next study.